Hey y'all, welcome as we continue through the book of Ecclesiastes. Today we are going to be reading through Ecclesiastes chapter 7. In this chapter, Solomon continues his evaluation of the wisdom of humankind and whether or not wisdom can make life any better this side of the sun. Solomon had previously come to the conclusion that it is better to be ignorant and happy than wise because knowing things can bring additional sorrows in life. Here he takes another look at wisdom as it is concerned with morality, and in doing so, he modified his views a little bit. He determined that wisdom is an important part of life. Solomon decided that wisdom cannot explain all the problems or questions, but wisdom is still a valuable ally in life. Wisdom can make life better, help us see life more clearly, and can help us face life stronger. It is always valuable when we are seeking God's wisdom. Better things come into our lives when we follow God's wisdom. We need to take deep breaths in life and ask the Lord for his wisdom before responding to the circumstances of life. We'll go ahead and start in verse 1.
A good reputation is more valuable than costly perfume, and the day you die is better than the day you are born. Better to spend your time at funerals than at parties. After all, everyone dies, so the living should take this to heart. Sorrow is better than laughter, for sadness has a refining influence on us. A wise person thinks a lot about death, while a fool thinks only about having a good time. Better to be criticized by a wise person than to be praised by a fool. A fool's laughter is quickly gone, like thorns crackling in a fire. This also is meaningless. Extortion turns wise people into fools, and bribes corrupt the heart. Finishing is better than starting. Patience is better than pride. Control your temper, for anger labels you a fool. Don't long for the good old days. This is not wise.
In these verses, Solomon compares what is best for life compared to what is enjoyable. He exposes our ignorance of the significance of difficulties and prosperity in life. Both difficulties and prosperity can have good and bad effects, depending on how people respond to them. Prosperity is not necessarily always good, and affliction is not necessarily always bad. The emphasis is on the importance of living wisely according to God's way and God's will. Solomon has realized that good character is better than cologne. In the world of dating and relationships, both are better. A good reputation is more valuable than riches. Then Solomon pairs this analysis with the day of death being better than the day of birth. He is saying, yeah, a good name is better than cologne, but remember that death is real for every life. No matter how good or bad we smell or how much people like who we are, we need to remember that we are headed somewhere after here.
But they didn't have aspen cologne at that time, and that cologne is the best of all.
Better than frankincense and myrrh?
I might be. I'm not sure. Probably not. No.
Solomon asks us not to be distracted by a good party, thinking that the party will never end because the party will end and reality will hit. Solomon focuses on the reality of the frustrations of this life in the in-between. Life is not a bowl of cherries. Don't worry, be happy usually does not work. It's easier said than done. The journey can be treacherous. There's no puffy sentiments in this world that can save us from the reality of coming death. 1 out of 1 human dies, with the exception of Enoch and Elijah, and we really aren't sure about Melchizedek either. But normally, 1 out of 1 human dies.
Typically rule
of thumb, unless God intervenes or Jesus returns first. So in the history of humanity, there are only 2, possibly 3 people who escaped death and were raptured by God instead. The truth is, death is better than life if you have surrendered your heart and life to Jesus, because death is really birth into a glorious eternity. You cannot kill a Christ follower. You just relocate them to their eternal home. Solomon didn't have the full revelation of Jesus yet, but he did have the gift of wisdom from God. Life is one breath after another. We don't think about each breath we take, but in God's grace, we have breath in our lungs, regardless of how we feel about him. Without each breath, no one would be able to live or accomplish anything. As we experience grief and hardships in life, we typically grow and mature. What we learn in our sorrow is better and has more lasting effect than what we learn while we are laughing. The times we learn about walking with God the best is usually when we are walking through the very hard, difficult valleys in life.
Mm-hmm.
The lessons in life that last are typically the ones that come from the hard times. Most people would prefer to go to a birthday party than a funeral, but Solomon tells us after all that he has witnessed in life, sorrow actually does more good for the heart than laughter. Laughter can be like a medicine that heals the broken heart, but sorrow can be like a nourishing food that strengthens our inner being. It takes both for a balanced life. Solomon wasn't contrasting birth and death in and of itself. There is an and in this statement, which means it is a continuation of his argument that it is better to have a good name, which means a good reputation, than great riches. You can't die unless you've been born. Solomon is contrasting these two significant days in the human experience on this earth. The day a person receives their name and the day when they enter into eternity. Our names reflect our character and what we are in the eyes of God. Names are the reality of what a person or thing is. On an interesting note, we will get a new name when we enter into eternity.
Yeah.
The life lived between receiving our name on this earth and leaving this earth will determine whether our names leave behind a sour stench or a fragrant perfume. If a person dies with a good name, their reputation in this world is sealed. Mary anointed Jesus with expensive perfume, and its fragrance filled the whole house.
Yeah, and then they tried to get after her about it, like, "Oh, what are you doing? We could have sold that and had a bunch of money." And Jesus was like, "Hey, what are you doing? Stop."
Yeah, she's living selfless instead of selfish. Jesus told her, because of what she did, her sacrifice, her humility for Jesus, that her name would be honored throughout the world, and it is. Judas sold Jesus into the hands of the enemy, and his name is not spoken of kindly.
No.
Judas was given his name when he was born, and his name means praise. By the time Judas died, he had turned his honorable name into something wicked.
Mm-hmm.
Solomon isn't emphasizing either or situations in these verses. He is asking for balance. Easy paths quickly become expensive detours that become difficult and painful. Wise people usually make plans that include a beginning, a process, and an end. That's the journey of a plan. The patient person is better than the proud. However, when money is involved, even the wisest people become fools. Solomon learned that wisdom is not incorruptible. Oppression pushes those wise efforts into different directions, and people with money use that money to restore their plans. People in authority can be swayed and bribed by others. Bribery can be a quick way to get things done, but it turns wise people into fools and encourages more corruption in our society. Solomon speaks of the importance of having accountability rather than being swayed by flattery. Money often causes corruption. Looking at the eternal instead of the temporal gives us a better perspective in circumstances that we face in this life. The end of a plan that is fulfilled is better than the beginning. At the end of life, we will find the truth of Jesus' restoration plan in full effect as we enter into eternity. The end is really the beginning. It is always better to be patient and trust the Lord for every move than trying to pridefully rush ahead of God and His Spirit and His will. In the face of oppression and injustice, Solomon warns us not to react in anger or rush ahead of God. Anger tends to defend something. Me, my territory, my rights, my truth, my reputation.
Yep. Right, you're right.
Anger outside of God is usually very selfish. It is better to wait patiently and humbly for God to work out His will in every outcome, in every situation, than to get angry and try to just demand our way instead.
Yeah.
If we truly believe that God is the creator, the owner, and the defender of our lives, we can patiently trust God through every hard time of life, knowing that God has it all worked out for us. We can trust Him. If God is at the beginning of what we do, He will see to it that we reach the end successfully. God is at work in the world, and His purposes will be accomplished. God always saves the best wine until last, while Satan offers his best and then leads us into suffering and destruction. Yesterday is past, and it cannot be changed, and tomorrow may never come. So Solomon encourages us to trust God, follow His ways, and make the most of today. We need to be intentional about living in the will of God today and not living paralyzed by yesterday or hypnotized by the dreams of tomorrow. And we'll go ahead and continue in verse 11.
Wisdom is even better when you have money. Both are a benefit as you go through life. Wisdom and money can get you almost anything, but only wisdom can save your life. Accept the way God does things, for who can straighten what he has made crooked? Enjoy prosperity while you can, but when hard times strike, realize that both come from God. Remember that nothing is certain in this life. I have seen everything in this meaningless life, including the death of good young people and the long life of wicked people. So don't be too good or too wise. Why destroy yourself? On the other hand, don't be too wicked either. Don't be a fool. Why die before your time? Pay attention to these instructions, for anyone who fears God will avoid both extremes.
As Solomon continues to examine wisdom, he realizes that, sure, wisdom can't save you in and of itself, but there's no benefit in being an idiot either. A foolish life is an insignificant life, so foolishness is not the answer either. In life under the sun, wisdom is still better than foolishness. A good life is not a painless life. It's the painful things that usually shape our character the most. It was walking through abandonment that directed me to cling tighter to God. It was being taken advantage of by the world that drove me to trust God and his faithfulness and goodness more. It was being traumatized by people in my environment that led me to run to the shelter of the Most High God for safety and security. It was by being nearly killed by doctors that led me to trust the great physician for every physical need in my body that he created me to have. It was through sitting next to my daughter in a hospital bed, thinking that she wasn't going to make it through another seizure, that taught me how to pray intercessory prayers every single day to this day for her salvation and the salvation of others. Hardship, challenges, persecution, and pain have literally shaped the character of who I am today the most. One of the marks of maturity is the ability to look at life in perspective and not get out of balance. If we try to use wisdom to lift us out of the past troubles of life instead of asking God for his wisdom and what he is trying to teach us and grow us in those painful moments, then we are going to be misusing the wisdom he's trying to instill in us. Life has been hard since Genesis 3, and it will be hard. Yet God has purpose in and through all of it. True wisdom comes from God. When we have God's wisdom, we will be able to accept and deal with the changing experiences that life brings. Wisdom isn't a path that helps us avoid frustrations in life. It is a way to manage the hardness of life. God's wisdom is our protection and preserves our lives. God's wisdom is far better than a generous inheritance. Money loses value, but true wisdom keeps its value and cannot be lost. Even though we may not receive a reward under the sun, it is always better to live abiding in the righteousness of Jesus and pursuing his holiness. We won't escape hardships on this side of heaven, but we will receive our reward in eternity, and eternity is forever. The path of life in this world is crooked because this world is broken by sin. However, God can make our path straight if we're willing to trust him and his goodness. Life isn't always fair here, but we can ask God for his wisdom, for his presence, and for his strength. God is not afraid of our questions. He's not afraid of our concerns. It is wise to surrender our hearts and lives to the will of God and honestly bring him every concern. We don't fully understand the works of God, but we do know that he makes everything beautiful in his time. This includes the things that we think are twisted and ugly right now. God is a God of redemption and restoration. God is just, and sin and evil will be punished. It's a promise. Even if we don't see it happening yet, it will be. Even though Solomon wasn't sure when God would judge, he knew for certain that God would judge, and he will judge righteously. There were over 300 prophecies foretelling the coming of Jesus into this world. A brilliant statistical person and mathematician by the name of Peter W. Stoner detailed in his book, Science Speaks, how unlikely it would be for one person to fulfill even just 8 specific Old Testament prophecies about the Messiah. He used calculations of probability to show that fulfilling several prophecies by chance is astronomically improbable. He estimated the odds of one person fulfilling just 8 of those prophecies to be 1 in 10 to the 17th power, or 1 in 100 quadrillion of a chance.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. That would be like pouring out 100 quadrillion quarters, 2 feet deep, covering the entire state of Texas, with only one quarter having a specific mark on it, and a blindfolded person pulling out that one specific quarter by chance. He further concluded that the odds of 48 prophecies coming to pass had a chance of 1 in 10 to the 57th power.
And then his computer blew up.
He concluded that it could only happen with divine intervention.
Yep.
The thing is, God does not work by chance. He is God. He prophesied over 300 times that a Messiah would come, and our Messiah came in exact detail that was prophesied that he would come.
Yep.
God has over 600 scriptures promising that he is returning as well. Jesus is returning. It's a promise. And with his return will come his judgment. If we have surrendered our hearts and lives to Jesus, there will be nothing found in us to judge. Our names are declared before the throne of God as his, and we will be in his presence, in his glory forever. People can deny the truth of God, but their denial does not make God untrue.
Yep.
His truth stands firm, and his truth is eternal, and his truth is the only truth that does not change or change in any way. And all people will eventually find out that his word is indeed true one way or another. God doesn't force us to accept or trust in Jesus. It's up to us to choose Jesus for life now. It will make a difference for all eternity. Righteousness doesn't protect us from difficulties in this broken world, but God's wisdom will help guard us against it. Wisdom gives us perspective, so we aren't discouraged when times get difficult or become arrogant when things go well. Money solves some problems, and so does wisdom. They protect us like a shadow does. The shadow will keep the heat off the scorching hot day, but if we try to build our whole lives under that cloud, we will quickly realize that that cloud is going to pass by and that shadow will move. God is the only one who can make the crooked things straight. So we need to build our lives on God, not the things of this world. No one is perfectly righteous except Jesus. God balances our lives by giving us enough blessings to keep us healthy and enough difficulties to keep us humble. God allows the times of celebration as well as the hard times. We can't take the Proverbs as life hacks to try to get out of hard times and then shake our fists at God when we don't get what we want, saying, "How dare you?" Joseph had every reason to get bitter while in prison. He had no idea that God was using the prison as a means to get him to a palace. Sometimes God will make us wait. We don't know or see the end of all things. God does. God directs us to use and trust his wisdom in his life, in the life he gives us, not try to get out of life. God has the eternal perspective. We do not. We've been here for like a minute. We're a shadow. God has been here forever. He knows how to do his job, and he asks us to trust him in it. In the days of prosperity, we rejoice. In the days of pain, God is in it with us, and we can trust him. We can trust his heart even if we can't see his hands and what they're doing. When hard times come, we can trust God and know that he has purpose in it. God keeps us steady as we surrender to him, and he can even turn burdens into blessing.
Yep.
He often does. God has a perfect way of keeping us from thinking that we know it all and can manage our lives on our own. Just when we think we have an explanation for things, God will change the situation, throwing out our entire formula. No matter where we are in life, we always need to walk in faith, look up, and trust God with all of our hearts. The wicked of the earth appear to be successful and prosperous only if you take the short temporal view of things. What good is it to gain the whole world if you lose your soul? Sacrificing the eternal for the temporal is absolutely not worth it. Solomon warns us not to claim to be righteous or wise. He is warning us against self-righteousness and the pride that comes when we think we have arrived and know it all. Good works won't save us and won't protect us from the difficulties of life or the frustrations from the fall. In the brokenness of this world, Susie Sue Dogood doesn't always win, and Stephen Sinner doesn't always lose.
These aren't real people. These are made up, by the way.
Job's friends struggled through that reality, and it drove them crazy. Righteousness isn't a means for control. God doesn't owe us if we do something right. Life is a gift from God, the good and the bad. Pursuing everything right won't save us from difficulties in life, and there's no righteous people. There's no righteous, perfect person, except for Jesus.
You're right.
And we crucified him. This was the problem with the Pharisees. They tried to follow all the rules so they could get the power and admiration that they thought they deserved. Phoebe struggled with this in an episode of Friends, actually. She was determined to find something to do that was completely selfless. Remember that episode?
Yep.
And she couldn't. She couldn't do anything that was completely selfless. Joey proved to her that even in all the good things that we do, there's an underlying selfish motive attached to it.
Not the character you would think would be explaining out a life lesson.
Yeah. And if any of you watch Friends. Yeah. Everything she tried to do, it made her feel good. And there was like a little bit of selfishness underneath the good deed. Yep. Bad things happen in this broken world, but that doesn't mean we should live foolishly. It just means life is hard because of sin. A lot of people end up walking away from faith because of an overly simplistic version of Christianity, also known as culture Christianity. They think of we do good, we get good. And if we do bad, we get bad. They think that God will never allow more than we can handle, which is not scriptural.
Not even close.
Not even close.
And
doesn't work that way.
And if something bad happens to me, then that means I must have done something bad.
Yeah, it doesn't work that way. God does give us more than we handle because he doesn't want us to be handling it. We're supposed to roll it to him and his power and trust him to handle it. The world is a broken mess, and the Bible is very clear about that. The Bible is also very clear about God allowing more than we can handle in life, again, because he doesn't want us handling it in our own human strength.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure when Moses was looking at that sea and then Pharaoh behind him, I'm sure he didn't go, well, Lord, I know you won't give me more than I can handle, so I'm sure I can handle it. I know.
I'll just start swimming.
Handle that.
No. Exactly. He wants us to go to him, to trust him, and to abide in him. He wants us to let him carry the weight and him fight the battles. We fight on our knees, and God does the fighting. We pray, God fights. Yep. He won't allow temptations more than we can handle. He will always give us an out from temptations. But he will allow hard times because it's in the hard times that we learn to trust him more and cling to him tighter. And our relationship with him then grows bigger and deeper.
Yeah, those testing things, he's working in us.
Yes.
Preparing us possibly for something else.
Yeah.
Next step.
Yeah, he's preparing us for what we don't know is ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. God does not owe us. He has already given us everything. He has purposes that we cannot see and do not understand, and it is good. Righteousness is good, but it does not promise us that we'll always win in life. There is no future in being wicked, and there is no guarantee that righteousness will give us an easy life. God is God, and we are not, and we are to bring humility before him. True wisdom is fearing God. God is in control. We are not. God runs the show. We do not.
That's right.
We need to grip tightly to the true righteousness that is only found in and through Jesus. We need to pursue the truth and wisdom that Jesus offers. We need to fear God and follow the guidance of Jesus and his Spirit in every single moment, in every single day. And we'll continue in verse 19.
One wise person is stronger than 10 leading citizens of a town. Not a single person on earth is always good and never sins. Don't eavesdrop on others. You may hear your servant curse you, for you know how often you yourself have cursed others. I've always tried my best to let wisdom guide my thoughts and actions. I said to myself, I am determined to be wise, but it didn't work. Wisdom is always distant and difficult to find. I searched everywhere, determined to find wisdom and to understand the reason for things. I was determined to prove to myself that wickedness is stupid and that foolishness is madness. I discovered that a seductive woman is a trap more bitter than death. Her passion is a snare, and her soft hands are chains. Those who are pleasing to God will escape her, but sinners will be caught in her snare. This is my conclusion, says the teacher. I discovered this after looking at the matter from every possible angle. Though I have searched repeatedly, I have not found what I was looking for. Only 1 out of 1,000 men is virtuous, but not one woman. I did find this. God created people to be virtuous, but they have each turned to follow their own downward path.
The wisdom of God makes us strong. There is no one on the face of this earth who is only good and never sins. The only one who accomplished that is Jesus. God has made a way for us to be upright and righteous through Jesus. Instead, humankind pursues schemes that are not within the will of God. If we fear God in holy reverence and awe of who he is, we will pursue his will, not our own. In the wisdom literature, wisdom and righteousness run together because it is smart to be holy. The problem is no one is holy, and we need Jesus desperately because of that. When we try to climb onto the high horse of self-righteousness, we need to remember that righteousness is not our horse. The horse of righteousness belongs to Jesus, and he asks us to join him and let him lead the way. Jesus is our bar of moral integrity, and we cannot achieve his level of moral integrity without him.
Right.
A wise person fears the Lord and therefore has nothing else to fear in this world. We are all guilty of sins of omission and sins of commission. If we walk in the fear of the Lord and follow his wisdom, we will be able to detect and defeat the wicked one when he tries to tempt us. Human wisdom has its limitations, but God's wisdom will guide us and guard us on our daily walk with him. The wise person pays no attention to the gossip of the day because they have more important matters to attend to. We shouldn't pay too much attention to what people say, but we should pay close attention to what we are saying. We shouldn't value other people's opinions because it is easy to be critical if there isn't a proper perspective. We can't stop other people's tongues, but we can stop our own tongue.
Yep.
This world is full of idle chit-chat that does absolutely no good for anyone. There are always more details and more sides to a situation, and the Lord moves in ways beyond what we can see or understand. We shouldn't rush forward following our feelings. We need to pause and wait on the Lord for his guidance and his direction. The Lord is our defender. He will work all things out according to his will and his purpose through us. His work is always perfect. His ways are entirely just, and he is a faithful God. Instead of trying to take control of situations and acting like a fool, we need to trust God and let him move. Even Solomon, with all of his God-given wisdom, couldn't understand all that exists and how God manages it or what purposes he has in mind through it. The wise person knows they don't know, and the more they learn, the more they know they don't know. The Hebrew word for man in verse 28 is echad or Adam. It most literally translates to human being or mankind. Solomon is not saying 1 in every 1,000 men please God and no woman pleases God. He is using Hebrew literature parallelism to emphasize the difficulty of finding one righteous human in his search for true wisdom and integrity within all of humanity. He's not just searching for males. He is searching within all of humankind, all of mankind, males and females alike, and he is coming up short in his search. Solomon learned that no one really pleases God completely, man or woman. Solomon concluded that the whole human race was bound by sin and no one is truly wise. Solomon isn't bashing women as a whole, and it would be dangerous to take this verse out of context and say that. Solomon actually spoke highly of women in both Proverbs and the Song of Songs.
Well, he really liked women. He had like 100,000 of them.
1,000.
Oh.
Yeah. He had 700 wives and 300 concubines. He even pictured God's wisdom as a beautiful woman in the book of Proverbs.
Yeah.
In the day of his writings, women had no freedom or status like they do today in our world. They weren't taught or educated, and it was very rare to find a woman with equal education to men. In spite of the cultural bias, Solomon spoke highly and respectfully of women who carry integrity in the ways of the Lord. Solomon is using the language of Proverbs, which was written to a young man, and warns about friends that will wreck your life and women who will do the same. He is personifying foolishness like he personified wisdom. Solomon is saying we cannot follow Lady Wisdom and Lady Foolishness. Solomon had his fair share of experiences with women. Like I said, like we just said, he had 700 wives and 300 concubines. He had been snared by the wickedness of many foreign women who enticed him away from the Lord into worshiping their pagan demonic gods instead of the Lord God Almighty. Solomon is emphasizing that pursuing foolish passions in life is worse than death. Pursuing the lusts of the flesh will lead to bondage and a life lived in chains. There's no wisdom to be found in following Lady Folly or pursuing Lady Folly. The way to guard against evil men and women who try to entice us away from God in this world is to fear God and seek to please him above all else. Galatians 3:28 reminds us that all people, regardless of race or whether they are male or female, All people are equally one in Christ Jesus and have equal standing before God.
Yep.
Both men and women are created in the very image of God and are co-heirs in Christ Jesus and should be respected and treated as such. Anyone who tries to suppress another person from their God-given gifts and talents and purpose in God is not following God or his will. We are to encourage each other in our gifts and talents and mission for God's kingdom, not suppress each other. No person is valued higher than any other in God's kingdom. God created Adam as an upright man, but Adam disobeyed God and fell into sin. Now all humankind seeks out clever inventions instead of God. God made humankind upright, but Solomon discovered humankind continually follows their own schemes instead of God's ways. God made us in his image, with him in his holiness and wisdom, and we pursue foolishness instead because the whole world is broken. There's something wrong in the world, and we can't fix it no matter how much money, self-help books we read, or right actions we try. This doesn't mean it's not good to pursue righteousness. It means that we need more. We need Jesus. We need his power within us, his spirit. Created in the image of God, humankind has the ability to understand and harness the forces that God put into nature, but we don't always use this ability in constructive ways. Each forward step in science seems to open up a Pandora's box of new problems in our world.
You got to be careful of Pandora boxes.
Yeah. We also tend to create more and more alluring forms of sin that are destroying individuals, communities, and nations. Solomon concludes that humankind, not God, is responsible for the universal failure to please God. We were created with the ability to choose to please God or not. Nevertheless, we have all gone our own way, seeking our own explanations instead of trusting God and his will. There are a ton of temptations in this world, but the person who pursues Jesus and his wisdom, trusting him heart and soul, will have the power to overcome. Solomon proved his point. Wisdom can make our lives better and clearer and stronger. We may not fully understand all that God is doing, but we will have enough wisdom to live for the good of others and the glory of God if we continue to pursue the Lord passionately in every step of life. The world is broken, and we can't work our way out of it in our own humanity. We are limited by humanity. We can't figure it all out on our own. We need someone to come get us, someone who can ascend and descend. We are stained by sin because we break faith in God, and now everything breaks and is broken. God saw this in Genesis 3 and said, "But there is a seed who will come from you, and he will crush the serpent's head." In the next verse, Adam named Eve Eve, which means life. There's this one in quadrillion guy that can come and get us. There's a seed of a woman that can crush the serpent's head, and he is the one that we need. He is the one that we are all searching for. He is the one who can make sense of it all and get us out of here. In the beginning, Jesus' ministry on earth in John 1, Jesus is talking to Philip. He tells Philip that he saw him under a fig tree. Jesus knew his name. Nathanael was with him and heard this and responded by stating that Jesus is surely the Son of God that we've been waiting for, all because Jesus simply knew Philip's name and saw him under a fig tree. Jesus said, "You are about to see a lot more than that, like angels."
You ain't seen nothing yet.
You're going to see like angels descending and ascending on the Son of Man, quoting Genesis. Jacob saw heaven open and angels moving up and down a ladder. We've not seen nothing yet. Jesus is moving powerfully, and he's going to continue to move powerfully as the end of the end days continue to emerge upon us. The ladder is not our effort to get above and beyond the frustrations of this fallen world. The ladder is Jesus. He is the access point to heaven. Jesus told Philip and Nathanael, "I am here. I am the one you've been waiting for." Our human efforts can't save us from the frustrations of the fall. We need a hero, and our hero has come. He confounded the wisest teachers. He took our thorns and thistles. He took our frustrations and pain. He took our poverty and sickness. He took our rejection and slander. He took all of the frustrations of the fall, and it killed him. Then he rose on the other side and said, "Life is frustrating. Life is hard, but that's not the end. So don't lose hope. Follow me, because the best is yet to come." God took the worst day in human history and made it the means of our redemption because the one in a quadrillion man showed up. Jesus is the ladder past the frustrations of the fallen world into union with God and his presence, the God who we are made for. Jesus is true wisdom. He is our hope. God will kick away all the false supports that we try to build up in our lives, not to make us fall on our faces, but to make us reach up to the true one who has descended and ascended. He pushes us to reach up to him, our one and only true source of life that absolutely lasts now and forever.
Amen.
And that is where we will stop for today. We hope you all are having a glorious day in the Lord.
And don't follow lady foolishness.
Follow lady foolishness.